In the previous installment of this retrospective, we saw the story of what happened to Raiden after the events of MGS4, and before that, we saw a major moment in Big Boss's life, with the battle against Peace Walker and the acquisition of Mother Base, an offshore rig that was given to Big Boss. I spent hours building up that base by putting the strongest and most skilled soldiers I could find in the section of the place where they would be most well suited. I spent many hours raising an army for Big Boss. However, Cypher wanted Big Boss out of the picture by any means necessary. He had sent Paz in to infiltrate Mother Base, gain the trust of Big Boss, and then kill him. Paz did just that. She pretended to be a school student, just a peaceful child. Then she took control of Metal Gear Zeke on Mother Base and attempted to kill Big Boss. Big Boss defeated his own Metal Gear, and Paz was thrown into the ocean, where she disappeared. Big Boss and Kazuhira Miller had to plan for a dark future. They knew that trouble would be headed their way again. However, it seemed as though Cypher had already put his plan into place, because he had already set into motion the Les Enfants Terribles project, where Liquid and Solid Snake were born. And it was revealed after the credits of Peace Walker that Miller knew about the secret plan to create the ultimate weapons from the genes of Big Boss, and that he was actually somehow in league with Cypher. The next game would take place shortly after the events of Peace Walker, and would take a more serious tone. And it would also be the first game ever to be developed using the Fox engine, which was created by Kojima Productions. It is a very advanced game engine that is capable of rendering high frame rates and some very beautiful and very realistic graphics. This is possibly the most controversial Metal Gear game to date, firstly because it was developed mostly outside of Japan, and because it would be the first game to not use David Hayter as the voice of the main character. Instead, Big Boss would be both voiced and face captured by Kiefer Sutherland, who was famous for his role as Jack Bauer in the TV series 24. But some of you horror fans may know him as David, the leader of a gang of vampires in the 1987 movie The Lost Boys. This game would also be one of the shortest games ever. It was originally meant to be the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 5, kind of like the tanker chapter in MGS2. However, due to a long development of the next Metal Gear title, it was released as a short game to hold fans of the series over for the final release of the full game. The first part is Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes, with the number 5 being replaced by the Roman numeral of V. This would make it the first entry in the series to use Roman numerals. This would act like the tanker chapter of MGS2, while Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain would act as the second half. It was interesting how The Phantom Pain was first advertised. It was advertised as a standalone game titled The Phantom Pain under a fake studio called Moby Dick Studios, by a fake CEO named Joachim Mogren. The internet was quick to find that the title, The Phantom Pain, had notches in some of the letters, and if you could place the words Metal Gear Solid V into the title, it would reveal the true title of the game. And it was also quickly discovered by the internet that Joachim was actually an anagram for Kojima. But we aren't here to talk about The Phantom Pain. Not yet, anyway. First, we must talk about Ground Zeroes. The story of Ground Zeroes starts before the game even starts. Mother Base is about to go through a nuclear inspection by the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA. They had a feeling that something was wrong, and they decided against letting them in. But then, for some reason, Huey, Otacon's father, agreed to the inspection, and they were forced to go through with it. They would hide Metal Gear Zeke at the bottom of the ocean beneath Mother Base, and they would all prepare for the inspection. But while Mother Base was being inspected by the IAEA, Big Boss would be out on a rescue mission. Big Boss had caught word that Paz had survived the fall into the ocean, and that she had been rescued by a fisherman. But she was now being imprisoned and tortured at Camp Omega in Cuba. And she wasn't alone. Chico had also been caught, and he too was being held and tortured. Tortured by the bad guy of the story, Skullface, a Hungarian man that had been horribly burned and disfigured during a bombing raid when he was just a child. And now, his name was very fitting to him, because his entire face was covered in burn scars, and most of it had been burned away, leaving just a bit of skin clinging to his skull and giving him a skull face. And his torturing methods are even revealed during some of the cassette tapes that can be found throughout the game. This is another controversial thing. In this aspect, the game enters dark territory by insinuating that rape was a means of torture. Skullface was trying to find the location of Cypher by torturing Paz, because it appears that not only is Big Boss his enemy, but so is Zero. In this case, it does not seem like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Skullface leaves Camp Omega via helicopter along with his XOF unit, XOF being the exact opposite of Big Boss's unit, Fox. The game starts when Big Boss arrives on the island where Camp Omega is located, and you have to infiltrate the island and rescue Paz and Chico. And you can rescue them in any order you want by finding them and calling in a helicopter to come get them, by pressing start and selecting a landing zone. There are several designated landing zones around the area. If they are marked in white, they are safe, and if they are marked in orange, they are in an area that is guarded and the helicopter could be shot down. The helicopter can also set to play music as it flies into enemy territory, and the louder the music is, the more chance there will be of the helicopter being heard by the enemy. Ground Zeroes offers a lot of new gameplay, including the ability to drive all sorts of vehicles that can be found scattered around Camp Omega, and there is also the ability to capture anyone, guard or prisoner, and take them to the helicopter along with Paz and Chico, and the game's data will be transferred over to the Phantom Pain, where they could be added to the army gathered in that game. After rescuing both Chico and Paz, there is a pretty graphic cutscene where it is discovered that Paz has a bomb inside of her, and the medic would have to cut her open and remove it. Luckily, the bomb is removed and Big Boss disposes of it by tossing it out of the helicopter. The helicopter then returns to Mother Base where things have gone horribly wrong. The inspection was actually a trap to catch Big Boss off guard and destroy his base of operations. Mother Base is both on fire and under fire. The soldiers of MSF had been ambushed and Big Boss arrives just in time to rescue Miller, but it appears that very few others escape as the base begins to fall into the ocean. All that work in Peace Walker, only for these people to destroy it. And Miller is just as mad about it as I am. The remains of a burning Mother Base are left behind as a handful of choppers fly away, and after Miller nearly kills Paz, she wakes up and another secret is revealed. There was another bomb inside of Paz, one that was hidden inside of her womb. Paz opens the bay door of the helicopter and falls out, but it was too late. The bomb inside Paz explodes just feet away from the helicopter, and Big Boss and Miller are hit with a blast of fire. Then the last thing they see is the front end of another chopper heading right into them. This would put Big Boss into a coma that would last 9 years. And that was it. That is all the main mission of the game. You save Paz and Chico, and that's it. The game is done. It really was like the Tanker chapter of MGS2, but that was released as a demo. This game is like a glorified demo. But that's not to say I didn't have fun with the game. It was worth the $20 I spent for it on PSN. But I'm not sure about the $30 for a hard copy of the game on PS3 and Xbox 360, and definitely not the $40 it cost to buy the game on PS4 and Xbox One. The game is not just that mission though. It also has a few side missions that are unlocked after the completion of the main story. There are 5 side missions that show off the different aspects of the game, like hunting down specific targets and swooping in via helicopter right into enemy fire to rescue an escaping soldier. And when you rescue that soldier, you discover that it is actually Hideo Kojima himself. Then there is a final mission that is unlocked after finding all the XOF patches that are scattered throughout Camp Omega. This final mission was different between the Microsoft and Sony systems. On the Microsoft systems, you would play as Raiden and would have to hunt down snatchers that are hidden throughout Camp Omega, while on the Sony versions you would have to go around Camp Omega and recreate scenes from Metal Gear Solid on the PS1, and the base even comes complete with the classic Genome soldiers. The game is very short, but I must admit it is very fun. But the problem is, it just left me wanting more. And I will have to wait for the release of the rest of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, which comes out September 1st, 2015. Join me next time to see the spin-offs and side stories of Metal Gear, and to see what is in store for the future of Metal Gear.